Hey guys, what's up, man? Lockdown day 12. Today we're going to talk about vaccines and immunities. And the big difference between the two is obviously immunity is something that is going to make you resistant to an infection, typically by stimulating the body's own immune system to protect the person against a subsequent infection or disease. And then obviously vaccine is for something if you've already had it put into the body to create an immunity by stimulating your antibodies in the same way. But it really just one works without the other. One works as a more of a protection and the other works as a cure. So, and this is the thing. It's nice to get the vaccines out to deal with the people who have already got it, but the most important thing is to make people immune to it. This is where we're seeing the likes of Bharat Biotech. Their C19 is likely to begin trials in July. So this is an intranasal vaccine, guys. It's under development by Bharat Biotech. It announced that this intranasal is called Coroflu, and it's under development in collaboration with a US-based company. It's FluGen. That's from the University of Wisconsin. And it's based on an existing flu, which is known as the M2SR, which is a gene sequences from SARS. What they're looking to do is, as I said, to get human trials by July is really good news. They are well in advance in this, because remember, you have to go by the concepts first. You have to, in terms of stripping down the actual disease to create the antibodies in order to do your work. Then you've got to go through animal testing, and then you've got to go through human testing, and then obviously the virus is ready to administer. And that's the reason why they're saying, look, 6, 12, 18 months at the most. But the fact that they're already in stage 3, which is human testing, yeah, for July, in the next 3 months, that's a good sign, because that means right now their animal testing is going really well. And it's not all the same for other companies. Some companies are further behind than others. But remember, this isn't a race, and I'll come on to that later on. But remember Jacob Glanville, we talked about him in my Lockdown Day 8 video, and he was the guy that's on Netflix's Pandemic show. And remember, we talked about that he was making something of a concoction and a treatment in regards to antibodies to treat SARS. And we're taking this one really seriously, because he's got and again, you only have to watch the show to see how much work he's put in. He's identified a series of potent antibodies that block those spikes, therefore making the virus no longer infectious. And he's doing this because the proof is there. He's used this same gene sequence with Ebola. Yeah, he was on the team that started to get Ebola cures working. So we know that this is a working concept that's been successful before. So for that reason, it's really special, really special eye on that one. And listen, so guys, that's Bharat Biotech, that's Dr. Jacob Glanville, and I'll leave the descriptions in the link below in this video, so you guys can also research that for yourself. But the third one is really close to home, because that's in the UK, and this is Professor Jonathan Healy. He's actually in the viral zoonotics at the University of Cambridge, and it's hopeful that his vaccine will be a candidate for human clinical trials as early as June. So we're hearing July from Biotechs, we're hearing June now in the UK, and this is to step up the test for vaccines in a pre-clinical trials, which means giving the vaccine to mice to check if it's safe for human trials. And remember, this is because the mice physiology and immune system is similar to humans. That's the reason why researchers can reduce the risk to humans by taking part in trials that works with mice. But at this stage, the pharmaceutical partners for clinical trials are starting to knock the door. Yeah, they're starting to make themselves known, because look, in the past to get vaccines working, it's taken many years, and it's taken about $500 million in terms of cash. But those pharmaceutical companies are first at hand in order to be there. And that's because there's big money to be made from this. Massive, huge amounts of money. And being first to market is what these companies want to be at, because there's huge financial payoffs for it. If around 41 research groups and pharma specialists are known to be working around the clock in the world to develop a vaccine. And this is why they have to take their time and not rush it, because the race to be first could backfire at any time. There's nothing worse than putting something out there which is going to cause more harm than good. And the more complex this virus, remember, this is a very complex virus. The reason why C19 is the way it is because it's a concoction of different animals. We're talking about birds, various birds, bats. They're finding the strain to be very complex. Normally with SARS, you had maybe a couple of strains and you could just say it was bats, or you could just sort of nail it down to one. Though if it has many different strains in it, then it's more complex and harder in order to make a cure for it. And that's the reason why it seems like the success that's happening now with the researchers has come from reverse engineering SARS vaccines, reverse engineering Ebola vaccines, because they're trying to use the complex situations and how they created those viruses to help them with the cure for this one. And I think that they're getting somewhere. Look, for them to organize and understand the DNA strain, and for them to talk about the success they've had with animal testing, and for them to talk about they are going into testing with humans in June and July. Yeah, remember initially last week it was September, October, November. Now those dates have been sped up. Why have they been sped up? Because it seems like they're having a level of success with the animal testing. So one can only imagine the success that is looming over to get to for these companies to be first to market. And so I just want to ensure that we understand as a people that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is something that we have to look forward to. I'm not saying it's going to be there tomorrow, or next week, or next month, but I'm saying that these things, and again, I'll leave the links in the description below on this video. I'll leave them there so that you can research them for yourself. I've spent quite a few hours researching all of this, and it's really it's opened my eyes and made me see exactly what's going out there. 41 companies working on this, guys. 41 around the clock. Yeah, around the clock. And again, I would strongly suggest you guys check out Dr. Glanville's show on Netflix called Pandemic. And it shows how he was able to overcome things like SARS and the Ebola virus. And it really bodes well for us because as a development standpoint, as I said, I think what's the most important thing is not a vaccine to cure the people who are sick with it. It's an immunity to make everybody who doesn't have it be immune to it. And I know that this is something that can be done through the nasal. Yeah, so if you look at something like just normal nasal sprays or Beckinase, if you look at something like that, which is readily available for prescriptions, it's something that you don't have to go to the hospital for. It's something that you could get a prescription for, and then you can go and pick it up. If you can just put it in your nose and inoculate yourself, essentially, which means that you won't be able to get it. And Britain are talking about having a UK passport with a stamp or a seal on it to say that you have been inoculated or you had a vaccine and you're immune to a further strain. And that's the thing at the moment, guys, we don't know whether people who have had it can get it again. Yeah, a lot of these things are still in the unknown. So if you've recovered from it, the chances are good, because if you've recovered from it, that means your body has built up antibodies to it. It means that you build a certain level of immunity. So that's good. But there's no scientific proof at the moment that you won't get it again. It's just not there yet. Yeah, we're not that far down the road that we know hand on heart that we're 100% totally immune to it. So in that way, to find an immunity system where we can inoculate ourselves is even more important, because that means that, can you imagine the horrific disaster it would be if those who got sick from it and those who recovered from it just got it again? It would show how bad this thing is. So it's even more important for us to get this going. Once we can do that, then we can, I think the original number they're talking about for shipping out is about 300 million units. Now we're talking about all of the tests at the moment, which are going to come into the UK. The official number, as I talked about in a few videos ago, was 100,000 tests per day at the end of April. That has somewhat changed now because, again, trading partners, people who we've had good relationships in the past, have come to the fore and have been able to get us a mandate to deliver more. So whereas these 100,000 tests were coming from China, it looks like South Korea now is in the fray. So for the UK, it's really good that they can do that, because look, as much as everybody buys stuff from China and as much as what they're going through, we don't really know what's going on in China. Yeah, those death rates are really, the number hasn't moved in ages. And then I've watched various shows that says that there's 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 urns that have been sent through. So it's almost as if they're just putting a cap on everything. And we can't believe that the numbers that we're hearing from there, just because of the nature of how things are. Yeah. So everything's reported through the World Organization, and those are the guys who throws out the numbers. So we can understand that certain numbers you're in Europe, America, US, and the UK are actually confirmed. Yeah, and I was talking about this with somebody last night. They're saying, yeah, there's more people that have passed away than the numbers given, and there's more people infected. Yes, there is. And that's because there's a difference between having a confirmed number and an unconfirmed number. And at the moment, we are not focusing on unconfirmed. We're focusing on confirmed. So whether that means, remember in Italy where there was a nurse was stating they've stopped counting the dead. This was, I think it was 2 weeks ago. No, it might have even been last week, early last week. Nurse was saying it's got so bad we're not even counting the dead anymore. Well, at some point you have to, because you have to issue all the death certificates. So those numbers then just catch up and they flood up. And that's why you have those different spikes. So at some point they do get counted, and that's why we shouldn't really pay too much attention to unconfirmed. Yeah, let's only focus on confirmed, because at the moment hospitals and these health centers around the world are gridlocked at the moment, and that's the reason why they're telling people to stay at home, so that we all just don't go out there and all catch it and all need to be rushed to the hospital. Because if you want to get into a case like what happened in Italy, where they were essentially turning people away in the hospital because they had no beds. And what happens if you've got someone who's very sick, that needs help, and they can't get a bed and they can't get help? That person is got a very low chance of making it, and that's the reason why the deaths started to pile up. The UK knows this, the US knows this, and that's the reason why they're trying to tell people to take it into their own hearts and minds to stay at home. Hashtag stay home. Yeah, so that we don't overflow the health authorities with all of these cases which they can't work with at the moment. Same thing that's happening in New York. People are talking about in New York, they're moving people out in hospitals in body bags because they just overflowed. So we have to put it among ourselves in order to help our authorities by staying at home. But guys, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you know what? We've got this to look forward to, and I'm going to put this down, as I said, in the comment section below. You can research it yourself, and I believe you strongly have to. Keep on top of this, yeah? And then we'll see how it goes. And we'll see who's going to be first to market with a viable vaccine or immunity. Because as I said, one is just as important as the other, but their job now is to find these antibodies that's going to help us and get this immunity spread around the world. Peace out, guys. Look after yourself. Keep it tight, man. Nice one.